Hello, all you freedom-loving people. Welcome to another episode of Front Page. I'm your host, Scott Cameron Goulet. Pfizer has admitted its vaccine is not as effective for young children against the disease as expected, but it still insists on selling annual vaccinations to the public. Let's see how long the public will trust them. Russia's economy has been hit hard by a series of sanctions imposed by the West, but Russia also has allies. This time it's not the CCP that's stepping in to help Moscow, but India. India is considering buying crude oil and other goods from Russia, and India abstained from voting against the Russian invasion of Ukraine at the UN. The social media giants have exploited legal loopholes in democratic societies to expand their power in order to censor speech. Now, it's their turn to experience what it's like to be blocked. Okay, let's get into it. The U.S. has been warning the CCP not to support Moscow's military action against Ukraine, not expecting India to emerge as one of Russia's allies. A little over a year ago, India was a steadfast ally with President Trump. But with the passage of time and with Joe Biden's poor foreign policy, India is drifting toward Russia. India announced on March 14th that it is looking at Russia's offer to buy crude oil and other commodities at a deeply discounted rate. India imports 80% of its oil. An Indian official who declined to be identified said, "Russia is offering oil and other commodities at a heavy discount. We will be happy to take that. We have some issues like tanker, insurance cover, and oil blends to be resolved. Once we have that, we will take the discount offer." India is also looking to purchase cheaper fertilizer from Russia and its ally Belarus, according to one official. The official who declined to be identified didn't say how much oil India would be buying or what the discount was, but he did say once the details were ironed out, India would take Russia up on its offer. Russia is really starting to feel the pinch of the sanctions and has turned to making a plea to friendly countries not to turn away from investment ties and to trade with Russia. With Biden's weak foreign policy and India's long-standing defense ties with Russia, it is not surprising that India abstained from a vote at the UN condemning the invasion. Another issue for India is that it relies heavily on Russia for its military hardware that runs as high as 60% despite a significant reduction over the last decade. But the U.S. has not said whether it would sanction India if Russia sends S-400 missile systems as part of the $5.5 billion deal signed in 2018. Ellie Radner, U.S. Assistant Secretary of Defense for Indo-Pacific Security Affairs, said, "We recognize that India has a complicated history and relationship with Russia. The majority of the weapons that they buy are from the Russians." And British Foreign Minister Liz Truss said that the UK should also pursue closer economic and defense ties with India. At the end of the day, former Indian ambassador to Russia, D. Bala Venkatesh Varma, said that India should not be expected to pay a price for being caught between two global powers standoff. U.S. military officials have repeatedly said that Russia's invasion appears to have been slowed or even thwarted in some places by Ukraine's military, but a top Kremlin spokesman denied Russia's military operations have hit a snag. Dmitry Peskov, a spokesman for Putin, claimed that Russia's invasion of Ukraine is still going according to plan and within the time frame that was approved in advance. Russian National Guard Chief Viktor Zolotov expressed a different view. He posted on the Guard's website, "Not everything is going as fast as we would like." Peskov also disputed a significant number of reports from Ukrainian officials who said that Russia was targeting civilian infrastructure, including hospitals. He said, "The Russian armed forces are using modern, high-precision weapons, hitting only military information infrastructure facilities." He blamed Ukraine's military and nationalist fighters for placing military equipment in residential and densely populated areas. On Monday, Ukraine's State Emergency Service said that a residential building in the Obolon area in Kiev was hit by shelling. What do you think? Is Russia's invasion going as planned? Do you think they meant to stall the convoy heading to Kiev just miles from the capital? Please share your thoughts with everyone in the comments. Russia's communication regulator notified the country's Instagram users that it was halting the social media platform's operations in Russia as of midnight, March 13th. Meta, the co-owner of Instagram and Facebook, last week said it will allow Facebook and Instagram users in some countries to call for violence against Russians and Russian soldiers in the context of the Ukrainian invasion, according to internal emails in a temporary change to its hate speech policy. Meta said the temporary change in its hate speech policy applies only to Ukraine. Meta believes that it is wrong to prevent Ukrainians from expressing their defiance and anger against the invading army. Russian authorities immediately responded by announcing a block on Instagram by launching a criminal investigation into Meta. And the country's prosecutors are asking the court to designate the U.S. tech giant as an extremist organization. This comes after Russia already blocked Facebook and Twitter. In an email, Russia's communication regulator encouraged the country's Instagram users to move their photos and videos off of Instagram and onto Russia's own internet platform. The head of Instagram said that the Russian block will affect 80 million users. And up next, Pfizer's CEO said that we need to keep getting booster shots. But is that true for everyone, including children? The CDC has a new study out about the efficacy of the vaccine in young children. We need to be careful to consider what we are doing toward the next generation. And if that wasn't enough to worry about, are your investments safe? Do your portfolios include Chinese companies? We have news about some Chinese companies, but before we go on, I want to take a moment to thank you all for your support of Front Page. Your donation and your membership subscription help us to keep telling the truth. Every like, comment, and share helps more people to see the truth. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And if you have already subscribed, please double check to make sure that you are still subscribed. We've heard from many of our viewers that they don't get notifications of our videos from YouTube anymore. So please follow us on Telegram, Gab, and Getter for the latest updates. Okay, let's get back into it. Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla claimed on March 13th that a fourth dose of the COVID-19 vaccine would be necessary since COVID is not going away. He suggested that Americans get a booster shot every year to live with the virus. Bourla said, "We know that the duration of the vaccine protection doesn't last very long." He added, "Right now, the way that we have seen, it is necessary, a fourth booster right now." Bourla's claim comes as deaths and cases from COVID-19 caused by the CCP virus have plummeted in the United States and the rest of the world in recent weeks. The CDC released a new study on March 11th, noting that the two-dose Pfizer vaccine was only 31% effective in preventing symptomatic and asymptomatic Omicron infection in children ages 5 to 11, but slightly better in adolescents ages 12 to 15 at 59%. There were just over 1,000 participants in the 5 to 11 year age group and a little more than 300 participants in the 12 to 15-year-old age group. The study still recommended that all eligible children and adolescents should remain up to date with recommended COVID-19 vaccination. The FDA postponed an expert advisory meeting on February 15th on the use of Pfizer's two-dose COVID-19 vaccine for children under the age of 5 years old after the new data was submitted. In an interview with Face the Nation, former FDA commissioner and Pfizer board member Dr. Scott Gottlieb said that the FDA delayed its decision to vaccinate children under 5 years old because of the vaccine's efficacy. Gottlieb said, There are no new safety issues emerging from this data. The issue here is the ability of the FDA and the providers to clearly define the level of efficacy of the vaccine. The New York State Department of Health also found that Pfizer's vaccine was only 12% effective against the Omicron variant. CNBC reported, the New York State Department of Health found that the effectiveness of Pfizer's vaccine against COVID infection plummeted from 68% to 12% for kids in that age group during the Omicron surge from December 13th through January 24th. Protection against hospitalization dropped from 100% to 48% during the same period. It is certainly the time for us to do our own research before we decide to vaccinate our young children. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, is renewing efforts to gain access to audits of overseas companies. 5 Chinese companies were provisionally delisted on March 10th for refusing to allow U.S. regulators to review their audit reports. Under the Foreign Company Accountability Act, passed in 2020, if U.S. regulators fail to review a listed company's audit filings for 3 consecutive years, as early as 2024, the company will be placed on the definitive delisting list. After being placed on the list, the company will be required to submit additional disclosures, including the influence of the Chinese Communist Party on the company and including the presence of ruling party officials in the company. Gary Gensler, chairman of the SEC, noted that more than 50 foreign jurisdictions allow the Public Company Accountability Oversight Board, or the PCAOB, to inspect companies listed in the U.S. The only exceptions are mainland China and Hong Kong. The Foreign Company Accountability Act is the bill that was passed by Congress after Chinese Communist Party regulators repeatedly denied PCAOB inspection requests. All U.S.-listed Chinese companies may end up being delisted because CCP law prohibits them from providing audit briefs to U.S. regulators. The Communist Party's securities laws states that foreign securities regulators are not allowed to conduct direct investigations and any evidence-gathering activities in China. No entity or individual may provide documents or information related to securities business activities outside of China without the consent of the CCP. So why does the CCP prohibit U.S. regulators from reviewing the audit transcripts of Chinese companies? Davy June Huang, an economist who lives in the United States, told the Epoch Times that audit transcripts contain many secrets that are not known to the public. The Alipay exchange system is unique to Alibaba. Huang said, so why is he the only one who has it? Because there is collusion between the government and business behind it, and it was granted to him by the authorities through some government connections. A number of powerful CCP figures were involved in the investment in Ant Financial and Alipay. Another reason is that the CCP's interference in the business practices of a company will be exposed as a result. Under the U.S. Foreign Company Accountability Act, Chinese companies listed on U.S. exchanges must disclose to investors the risk of CCP interference in their business. In addition, Chinese companies commonly commit fraud, which the CCP knows all too well. Huang added, some Chinese companies do not meet U.S. listing standards. It has lost money for many years in a row, and it has falsified its entire earnings preparation process. Huang disclosed that the CCP still encourages them to go public in the U.S. and even intentionally arranges for some of them to be listed outside the country, allowing the international market to bear the risk of investment failure. This is also to increase China's link to the U.S. capital market and to ultimately tie the U.S. to itself. Through capital market linking, the CCP can attract more U.S. capital to China. Through cross-border listing, the CCP can also achieve its goal of funneling benefits to Wall Street. The U.S. passed the Foreign Company Accountability Act as part of the government's financial decoupling plan from China, but the CCP is not willing to decouple from the United States. The CCP wants to be deeply tied to the U.S. and to form a community of destiny for a deeper reason. Huang said, "Russia is now under sanctions. If it were China, it would be difficult to sanction it because many of its companies are linked to U.S. interests. So once it is sanctioned, it will involve many U.S. capitalists and investors in general." Under the strong pressure to delist Chinese stock, Huang believes that the CCP will compromise, but it will make changes to the audit briefs, that is, falsify them. Meanwhile, the SEC's thunderous action is forcing Chinese companies listed in the U.S. to go public in Hong Kong. Alibaba, Qingdong, Baidu, Weibo, and others have already taken this step. And so we say farewell. Okay, this is our show for today. If you like what you see here on our YouTube show, you will love our membership site. We have in-depth reports and clear and straightforward analysis without any fluff. The website is frontpageshow.com. I hope to see you there. And if you like what you heard today, please don't forget to like and subscribe this video and share it with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth. Again, thank you for watching Front Page, and we will see you next time.